Welcome, everybody, to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel, the official Colts affiliate of Sports Illustrated and Fan Nation. My name is Destin Adams, and again, I'm joined by Zach Hicks. We've been putting in some overtime over these last couple of weeks together, and we're joined by a special guest, Colts 7th-round pick, Jake Witt out of Northern Michigan. Jake, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Zach, how you doing? Heard you went on a little trip to the bookstore today.
Yes. I'm going to get a bunch of books that make me look smarter. Just put them on my bookshelf and then take a picture of that bookshelf and never read them. That's the goal right there. Just throw them on there just so I can show people that I'm very literate. So yes, I was at the bookstore all morning.
One of the signs of wisdom is a nice bookshelf.
Exactly.
And so, Jake, we'll move away from Zach's book love and we'll go over to you and your journey. I think the only way to start out this interview is just letting you kind of talk about your very unique path to the NFL. So just going to read off your college journey. In 2018, you go to Michigan Tech to actually play basketball. After 2018, you make the transfer decision to Northern Michigan. You don't play sports at all in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just for that fall semester, I was just a student. Yep.
And then 2020 comes around, obviously with the COVID season. You don't end up being able to play football that year, but you actually had signed up already to play football at Northern Michigan in 2020. And in the last 2 years, you spent time at Northern Michigan playing football, obviously. So kind of just walk through that journey for you and like your journey up until this point of now you are an Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah, no, crazy journey for sure. And I mean, so growing up, high school, we're very small school here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I played basketball from 3rd grade all the way to my senior year. Football, I only played my junior, senior year. So I played 2 years of high school football. We were 8-man. I was a wide receiver. So a lot different than what I'm playing right now. But that's kind of what spurred me to go play basketball right off the bat. I was a very, I guess you could say, comfortable sport. I knew a lot more about the sport of basketball than football. I loved basketball, so I'm like, hey, I'm going to go out and play basketball. So, like you said, played a year at Michigan Tech. I had a good freshman year, good true freshman year. But I just realized, I'm like, man, I don't know if basketball is what I want to do, right? So I transferred to Northern. Really no intentions to play sports again. So I was a student for that semester, that first semester in 2019. Spring semester 2020 rolls around, and I decided I want to play football. So I walk onto the team right when the first spring ball practice is supposed to start. COVID cancels it. So, we get to all that stuff. We get sent home. We're still holding on to hope that maybe there will be a fall season there for 2020. Obviously, we didn't play in 2020. We were supposed to play some spring games or scrimmages in 2021. We didn't, but we had a full year of practice, which was great for me. I was a tight end at the time. Going from wide receiver at the 8-man level of football in Michigan to tight end. Obviously, I'm going to need to learn how to block, need to learn how to get used to the speed of the game in college schemes, all that. So that was a great year of development for me. We roll into 2021, play almost the entire season at tight end. I was our starting tight end. And then week 9, we're playing Ferris State University, the eventual Division II national champions that year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at away games, so we only traveled 53 guys or whatever, and we had 2 or 3 injuries on the offensive line. And coach comes up to me at halftime with my number 65 jersey, and he's like, hey, we're gonna have to put you in at tackle. So I never played it before. I was probably 265 pounds at the time, and I got 5 or 6 practice pass sets going into that second half of the game, and did well enough to where I played the last 2 games after that of the season at right tackle, then made that full transition this past fall to left tackle, and now we're here.
Yeah. So from my experience talking to guys who have had a similar transition as you from tight end to offensive line, I know O-line coaches can get, pretty pushy when it comes to, hey, come over here, come play offensive line. Look, you're 6'7", you're 265, 270. I can get you up to 300 and we're good. How pushy was your O-line coach there and getting you like, hey, you know what? You look good that one game. I need you to stay here on the offensive line for me.
Yeah, honestly, he wasn't that pushy leading up to it. It was kind of out of necessity that I had to switch over to tackle that game. did well enough. I wasn't against playing tackle, right? So we were going to keep me there for the last 2 games regardless, because the guys were injured. We kind of, I played well enough. So it was kind of an experiment for them. End of season. Played well enough. We sat down after the season, and he didn't really push it upon me, but he's like, hey, we could get you up to 300 pounds quite easily. We could get you, you're going to move well. You're going to be athletic. You're going to be raw. We can develop you easily with what you have athletically. So I'm like, hey, let's do it. So that's what we did. That whole offseason was dedicated to becoming an offensive lineman and kind of getting bigger, getting stronger. And yeah, took me right here.
Love it. Love it.
So just to go from and that 2019 year in the fall, like you said, you had no thought process of if you were going to play college sports anymore, to being now in the NFL. So like, when did that like idea pop into your head to where, oh, maybe like I can keep playing football further than my career at Northern Michigan?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. There are a few different steps in that kind of dream coming to fruition. The first one was probably right when I decided to walk onto the team. That would have been spring of 2020. I played some intramural soccer, right? So I was playing soccer, posted a picture on Instagram, and the strength and conditioning coach, who was Northern Michigan strength coach at the time, but also had a private sports performance gym up there, he reached out and said, hey, come train at my gym. I'm not going to charge you. I just want to see what we can get out of you. I mean, that was his plan the whole time, was to talk me into playing football, right? So I was training with their pro day group at that time. So it was that 2020, he had a couple of guys that were training for pro days and whatnot. So I trained with them. I was really kind of in with the that competitive group of guys, the football players, professional guys. And I'm like, hey, I might want to do this. The whole time he's kind of telling me like, hey, this is how you're testing, and he's showing me numbers. Like, this is how you jump and run compared to, at that time, NFL combine numbers for tight ends. So he kind of put that seed in my head, like right off the bat, talked me into coming out and playing. Obviously there was a full year and a half of delay, where we really got, until we got to play, tight end. I played all right, but it wasn't anything that was going to gather the interest of teams at the next level. So then I switched to tackle, and there were actually a couple teams scouting like opposing players in those few games, especially the Ferris State game. They had a great defensive line, and obviously they have a player that just got picked up this year. And so that was kind of the game where it really, after some scouts saw me switch and play tackle, and they called my coaches and said, hey, who's this guy? What can you tell me about him? So that was kind of the first basic introduction. And then this past fall, things picked up, got some more contacts with some teams. And then, the ball really started rolling this past spring after my pro day.
Yeah, I love it. I do want to dive into that pre-draft process a little bit, but you said earlier that it was your first start was against Ferris State, right? So Ferris State, that great defensive line, and I believe didn't they have a pass rush that had like 25 sacks or something last season?
Yeah. Caleb Murphy, I think he broke the all-time NCAA sack record. Yep.
Yeah. So how often did you face him in that first start, and was there a little bit of the shell shock to it? Because we're talking about one of the best pass rushers in that division history right there at that point.
Yeah, he was might have been a reason why I had to switch in there too. You see these things, like he's had a couple games where he's had 5-6 sacks in a game, right? Yeah. This game he had 4 in the first half. So they're kind of I'm going in playing right tackle. He's lined up against me on the first play. I'm thinking, oh goodness. But I didn't allow any sacks or pressures that half. So, it worked out. And that's kind of why they kept me there then.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few teams kind of like reaching out here and there after that moment. When was like the first introduction there with the Colts specifically, even if that is pretty recent since the draft pick came in April?
Yeah, Colts were actually probably the first team that really had an interview with me, in this last season. So they had reached out, they had scouted early. I kept that contact leading up to the pro day. Obviously, after the pro day, I had a private workout with the Colts up here, and then things just started to snowball from there, and they ended up selecting me in the 7th round.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, we obviously don't want to go too much into like where you're going to be playing with the Colts, something like that. But one thing I do want to jokingly just throw out there in jest here is you're one of many guys that the Colts have taken who were former tight ends who have moved to offensive line. Danny Pinter is playing center, who started at tight end in college. You got Bernard Ryman there now at left tackle. Now we got you coming in. Can we get a personnel grouping with all three of you guys there at tight end? Like, I think this could work, get all three of you guys out there at tight end. I know you can't go into too much of that information there, but I think we can have something special there,
Hey, that'd be pretty exciting. That'd be pretty interesting to see.
So then we have you guys going out to tight end. We have Jelani Woods, who's a tight end, who was a quarterback at one point in his high school career.
There we go.
To throw the ball. We have some fun options here, without a doubt.
Yeah. You got Anthony Richardson, who basically looks like a tight end. I'm back there too. So hey.
There we go. One thing I wanted to ask you with that is, I did just bring up, the Colts have kind of gone after this mold, guys who change positions in college and stuff like that. And you changed positions quite a few times, from tight end to right tackle to left tackle. Do you think that that kind of adversity kind of helps you prepare here for the next level? You're having to learn so much there at that college level, changing sports, changing positions. Do you think that's going to help you a lot in this process as you adjust to the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming from my level, there's going to be a big learning curve. And I think something throughout my athletic career in college, I've been able to, like you said, transition sports, learn to block as a tight end, transition from tight end to tackle, all in a pretty quick time span. And I think that's going to help me a lot at this level, because there's going to be a lot of learning as far as scheme, technique, physicality, speed of the game. And I think that's going to be a big asset for me, is just that learning ability. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to take that with me and try to prepare like I have in the past. And, that's going to be a big asset for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're really fresh off the Indianapolis Colts rookie mini camp, where you guys all got together a little bit, all the draft picks, the undrafted free agents, as well as some of the rookie tryouts that came in. How was that experience for you, and just your first really experience as an NFL player?
It was surreal at first. I mean, a few weeks before, I was sitting, up here just training and whatnot, and then things really started to snowball. And then I was an NFL draft pick. I was in an NFL facility practicing, and at the end of the day, when I get out the field, things kind of left my mind, right? So all fields are 100 yards. I could have been back playing 8-man football in the Upper Peninsula, right? It's just, you're out there playing football. I'm doing what I've prepared to do, right? And it all worked out well. It was a fun weekend, getting to know all the guys, getting to see the facilities, meet the personnel. And no, it was a great weekend.
Yeah. What's your impression so far of O-line coach Tony Sperano Jr.? I've heard a lot of really good things so far. Have you had a chance to really sit down and talk with him?
Yeah. We met with him a lot this past weekend. He's a great guy. I mean, I love him. I love his personality, his coaching style. I'm super excited for him to kind of work with me and for me to work with the other guys there.
Yeah. Awesome. I did want to ask you one thing about your pre-draft process. I don't know how big you are on social media or anything like that, but it felt like for a majority of this process, Jake Witt was not a guy on any of media or just fans of the draft. You were not on any of these radars whatsoever. And then the Dane Brugler article dropped with The Athletic. That was all about you, profiling your journey and stuff. And then if you look at mock draft simulators after that, your name is skyrocketing up there. People are going, oh my gosh, Jake Witt, look at this athlete. We need to get him on our team. What was that like, again, from your background, Northern Michigan, playing 8-man football in high school, now seeing, articles written about you at The Athletic and seeing people talking about wanting you on their team? Like, was that kind of a surreal thing for you?
Yeah, definitely was. I mean, The Athletic article, like you said, Dane's article really blew it up. I think a few days after, the New York Times had posted it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, I think I was ranked 700 or something coming into the process. And then Dane's article, after that, I was like 400, went down to 290, finished at around 211, 210 or something like that.
There you go.
So you could really see that climb, and kind of it really was like a 1 month increase from all the way from 700 down to 200 something. And yeah, a lot of it was surreal. I mean, I would, like you said, open up Twitter, there'd be articles about it and all that stuff. And coming from, a small area like this, it was crazy. It was crazy to see all the NFL mock drafts. Some of them were putting me in the 6th, 7th rounds, and it was awesome. It was exciting. And I was just waiting to see what the draft held before it came.
Yeah. Destin, I'll let you ask a question in a second, but were your parents or people you knew from your hometown sending you articles being like, look, I see you in this one too. Like, oh my gosh, they're talking about you again.
Yeah. The thing about the Upper Peninsula up here is it's such a tightly knit community. I mean, this whole peninsula only has like 280,000 people, and it's the size of, bigger than some states. So it's a very spread out area, but everybody's so tightly knit. So I would see one article that was posted with like 50 something shares, and then every article was posted that I was in a mock draft with, whether it was my family or friends or a community member sharing it. So I did see those all over. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
so speaking of like the community aspect, we haven't got to kind of see much from Colts social media about this yet. So like, what was your like draft watch party like there up there in the Northern Peninsula? Did you have just family for the most part, family and friends, the entire peninsula just partying it up there? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I was hanging out with my family. I was at my uncle's house. I had obviously my grandparents, all my aunts and uncles on both sides, a bunch of family, friends of mine. And it was just a good gathering. Probably had 50 people there, just having a good time and waiting to see what happened. But yeah, like I said, it was a bunch of just my favorite people. We had them all there, and it was an awesome time.
Love it. Love it. Going back to a little bit of your game, and look, I'm not going to sit here and lie and said I've watched every single Northern Michigan game. I would love to have, if you can send me some film, man, I would love to be able to watch it and stuff. But just going back to your game, you're a player who is, I always love asking players this, you have the taller frame, 6'7", I believe you came in at 6'7", right? It was 6'7", 6'8". Yeah. Around then, super tall frame. And while there are benefits to that, your longer reach and you can get on guys a lot quicker, there are negatives to that. You're playing a leverage game. You're playing a game where the low guy wins and you're a taller player. How in your career as an offensive lineman and kind of learning as an offensive lineman, have you worked to kind of win the leverage game despite being someone who's already naturally disadvantaged at that?
Yeah, that was a big transition for me for sure. I mean, going to playing tight end, running routes, to playing offensive line where it was all about leverage. And being tall, like you said, can be a huge benefit for you, but can also be a huge disadvantage depending, if you don't use your levers correctly, you're done for. So that was a big learning curve for me. That was the first time I'd really played offensive line, and I'm still learning, like to this day, how to use all that. But I have great coaches, great people around me that, like you said, there's some players on the team that have made similar transitions. There's a bunch of guys on our team, tall guys like myself, that'll be able to help me. And that's part of what it is. I know that I'm a developmental kind of guy right now, and that's kind of the gamble that the Colts took. And, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a development kind of story, but it's going to be a fun time. And like you said, I have to use my tools, my natural traits. And once we can utilize those, I have a good feeling about things.
Love it. Love it.
So for you in the draft process, you weren't invited to the scouting combine here in Indy. So that kind of makes your pro day even more important. So kind of just walk us back to that day and that event, and where you did put on some good numbers. I mean, a 4.8 940 as a tackle. I mean, that it's going to get you drafted, and it
did. Yeah. No, we knew that I was going to test well going in, and it was just a matter of, getting those official numbers out to where teams could see that. So we went in, we had great preparation all spring. We knew I would run well, test well, jump well. And yeah, it was a good overall day. And the funny part is, there's always comparisons of me comparing my RAS scores to Blake Freeland all through this whole process, right? And then Blake and I end up on the same team. So that's kind of exciting. But that pro day was huge. I mean, that was the most pivotal part of this whole process for me, for sure. It was a day, with a lot of importance, and luckily, things went very well, and it all spiraled and led me here.
All right, you and Blake got to have an athletic competition, though. You guys got to just, see who the ultimate athlete is there at offensive tackle. Did I take what you were going to say there, Destin?
Not exactly. I was just going to follow up with, so you mentioned, you knew you were going to test well. So some of the people that we've talked to that had that similar mindset going in, they had some numbers they were wanting to hit and they still didn't hit them. Was that the reality for you? Did the numbers that you hit match what your expectation was going in?
Yeah, there were numbers that I was very happy with, some that I was surprisingly happy with, some that I didn't hit as well on. So overall, it was a good balanced day for me. And I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers like the weight, the bench press were two numbers that, the weight, I knew I'd weigh in at that. The bench press, I thought I would get a few more reps, but those are two measurables that we can develop a lot more easily than, say, the jumps or the runs. So that's a benefit with that. But overall, it was a good day. I was very happy with the numbers I got. And yeah, it was just, my trainer was like, let's go, when he saw me pop those jumps. And no, it was a fun day.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the training process kind of like for you? Because I know there's a major difference in, how your physique is and how your body is when it comes to getting ready for a football season compared to getting ready for what we call workout season, because you're just getting your body ready for those workouts so you can hit these jumps that you may never hit again in your entire life, but you need to get those numbers on paper. What was that kind of body transformation like for you and kind of getting yourself into the proper shape to put up the workout numbers that you did?
Yeah, I a big part of it. I played last season at 285, so I stacked on 20 pounds in a few months. That was a big part of it, just nutrition, added more calories, really dialed that in. And then all the training was, for the most part, just focusing on, the 40-yard dash, all the minor details, the starts for the 40, the pro agility, all the minor, the hip turns, the footwork. Same thing with the L drill, the vertical jumps. We did a lot of those. Now to where the training transitions to where we drop all that down. We're still training to get stronger, more explosive, bigger, but it's a lot more football training because, we're going to be playing football now. Like you said, we don't have to worry about doing a max vertical or a max broad jump anymore. So that we're still training to get stronger, faster, more explosive, but not as in depth as we were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've mentioned the word development in your game, and you're as a prospect. A lot of people have thrown that word on you throughout this process, I'm sure as well. When Chris Ballard was actually asked about your picks specifically post draft, he said that's a swing. That's the quote he said. So, like, what does that quote mean to you, and then what conversation like since with them to make that swing, not just a swing, but a home run?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think with this pick being a swing, like you said, I think there's a lot of upside to it. I mean, I'm confident in my abilities, and then the people that I'm surrounded with there in Indy, that we can make that swing into a home run, right? So that's, Chris Ballard, he's, very confident in me. He put that trust into me to give me one of his draft selections. Very grateful for that, and that I'm going to work as hard as I can to make that swing a home run from here on out. I'm just super excited to be there, and an organization like I said that took that chance on me in the draft.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. How big was your agent throughout this whole process? I know that can go either way sometimes with especially with small school guys. Sometimes small school guys, they latch on to agencies that are a little too big, and then they kind of get lost in the shuffle. But how big was your agent throughout this whole process? Not only making sure you're with the right trainer and getting ready for all this stuff, but also making sure that teams are getting their eye on you.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy story with him too. So he's a first-year agent. I was the first guy he signed with in his class this year, and he's a former Northern Michigan University football player.
Oh, that's cool.
Former small school guy. He's from the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. So we bonded, connected on a lot of those points. I could tell, me being his first client, that he wanted very badly for me to make it to the next level. He was hungry for that. And everything kind of fell into place perfectly throughout this whole process. He was great. He made a ton of connections for me. He helped me a lot with, going to various training facilities for skill work, for my pro day prep. And then just, making the contact with the teams regularly was something that he did very well. So I'm super happy to work with my agent, and continue working with him. And, I made a great selection at the end of the day.
Awesome.
Has there been much playful debate over the Upper and Lower Peninsula and that rivalry there?
Yeah, we do call those the people in the Lower Peninsula the trolls, because they're technically they're under the bridge, under the Mackinac Bridge, if you look at a map. So that's why they're the trolls. But yeah,
you got a troll representing you. You can't go wrong now.
No, yeah.
Oh man. So getting to your training a little bit, and we'll wrap this up here soon because we don't want to keep you all day here. But talking about your training now that it's transitioning to NFL stuff, what is kind of the main focus so far? You don't have to go too much into detail, but like, how do you kind of simulate NFL game or just regular game stuff in training, maybe on air or with dummies and stuff like that?
Yeah, just a lot of it's footwork. Working into your pass sets, you're gonna have somebody coming at you with a blocking bag. Simulating a defender, obviously it's going to be tough to match the physicality, the speed, all that stuff of a real game, but a lot of it you could simulate. A lot of it's footwork wise, and then luckily with this off-season program coming up, we'll work it up in phases to where eventually we were working against guys at full speed. So it's all about taking it step by step right now. We're kind of working the basics that we can footwork wise, the bare level basics right now, and eventually, move it up step by step to, like I said, till we're actually going to be playing football in a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah. Have the Colts, I know they've given you homework, obviously, with the playbook and such, but have they given you homework on like, hey, by the time we see you for OTAs, we want this area of your game to get better, we want you to work on this area of the game, or is it more just kind of playbook right now?
More just playbook right now. A lot of that stuff. Obviously we'll go into the off-season program in less than a week here, and they'll be able to set more goals for me for when I come back home for a month after the off-season program. So by that time they'll tell me, hey, when you come back, we want you to try to be at this weight. We want you to try to improve this part of your game and whatnot. So this period here, this next 5 weeks will kind of be that period where they'll explore my weaknesses and my strengths and kind of give me a plan to improve in the next 5 weeks after that.
Perfect.
So the Colts have some highly regarded offensive linemen around the league, and Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith. Have you had the chance to connect with any of those guys so far? And a couple of them, have experience even moving around the line a little bit, similar to yourself, with Braden Smith being a former guard.
Yeah. I've spoken to a few of those guys. Obviously, we weren't integrated with them at all when we were at rookie minicamp this past weekend. But I've corresponded with them over text, over the phone, and a few times in person at the facility. But obviously here, when we get integrated with them in the off-season program, get to know those guys a lot better, get to learn from them, and that's something I'm very excited about.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to assume that you're going to play like left tackle or right tackle. Obviously, we can't talk about where the Colts are ultimately going to play you. But if you end up at left tackle and, whether it's through training camp or maybe one day being a starting left tackle, how much easier is your life playing alongside a guy like Quentin Nelson? I mean, we're talking about, honestly, at this point, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. How much of your life would just be easier playing next to a guy like that?
It would be awesome. I mean, just a lot of small things too, just to learn from him, right? That's going to be learn how to be a professional player. All the minor details, whether it's football wise or not, are going to carry my game to the next level, just being around him, but also being exciting. Also, it'll be very exciting to, like you said, kind of experience a Hall of Fame player playing alongside him. And it's something that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, there's a bunch of great offensive linemen, like you said, with the Colts organization. And for me to be able to learn from them, future Hall of Fame player, guys that have made similar transitions, tight end to tackle, like I have, it's going to be fun. I think it's a great group of guys for me to be with, to be integrated with, and a good group of guys that could take my development to a whole nother level.
Love it.
So yeah, the NFL draft process as a whole is pretty just up in the air. You don't know where in the country you're going to go. You being a Michigan native, a guy who spent his college years even in Michigan, what did it mean to you to end up at one of the closer facilities that you really could have ended up at, being close to home, staying in the Midwest, opposed to having to go out to a California, a Florida, somewhere far away from everything you know?
I think it's awesome, just from many different aspects, but especially to be able to have family and friends, be able to come down and watch games that they like. And then it makes that transition for me a lot easier too. I don't have to get used to, living on the West Coast, for example, living in Florida. The Midwest is generally, it's a comfortable place for me because I've lived there for 23 years now and don't have to have too much adjustments when it comes to that. But like I said, it's not too far for family and friends to come down, which is a big bonus.
Perfect. Well, Destin, do you have anything else you want to touch on here? We're about to hit the 30-minute mark. So again, I don't want to keep Jake and everybody here too long.
Yeah, no, I think just to give you kind of the floor real quick, just to talk to Colts Nation, Colts fans, and what they can expect from Jake Witt, the player, as well as just Jake Witt, the person.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be in Indy. I mean, like I said, for an organization to take that shot on me, is something that, I'm going to cherish. I'm very thankful for it. And it's only going to make me, work that much harder for that organization. And I think, just being in that locker room, being with the guys around the organization, I mean, I could see a lot of good things happening. The new coaching staff, they're great people, great coaches. And I think for the, Indianapolis Colts Nation, there's going to be a lot of good, exciting things coming from the organization, the team, and then myself in the future. Just super excited to be a part of it and be down in Indy.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, man. We're really excited to have you here. Love everything about your pre-draft process. And then again, if I can get some Northern Michigan film, I'm sure that I will be really pumped to see what you did on film the last couple of years. But man, we appreciate you joining us. It was fun talking with you, and obviously just good luck with everything this next season.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I enjoyed the chat. It was a good time.
Appreciate Jake Witt joining us, everybody. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to the Horseshoe Huddle channel, and check out horseshoehuddle.com for all things Indianapolis Colts and the future career of Jake Witt. Make sure you guys are following along for all of that. Thank you, guys.